Hello and welcome. My name is Nicholas and this is Literally Graphic. And today I don't just have a cold, for which I apologize, but we are also going to totally circumvent my initial thoughts and just jump in to a review of the first 13 volumes of the series. No matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular, aka Watamote, with words and art by Nico Tanigawa, translated by Krista Shipley plus Carrie Shipley, and published by Yen Press from October 29th, 2013 to the present day. I'm not sure how many volumes this is aiming to be, but there's at least 15 so far. As with many of these manga series, there's a couple of different manga hoarder challenges that could apply, but we are going to go with number 21, a contemporary slice of life manga. This series does involve a lot of sexual themes, including some jokes about incest. There is also swearing. Digging a bit more into the creator behind this delightful concoction, Nico Tanigawa is actually a pseudonym for a creative duo with a writer who apparently identifies as male and an artist who identifies as female. Together they have, at this particular point in time, completed 15 volumes of Watamote, 4 volumes of Choku, 1 volume of Number Girl, 2 issues of Right Sisters, Kuzu to Magane to Bunkaku, Shoujo, and probably some other stuff that I don't see. Flipping over to Wikipedia, the concept of the series is described as follows. 15-year-old Tomoko Kuroki believes that she would become popular upon entering high school because she has become well-versed in the world of otome games, aka dating games. In reality, she finds that she has become an unsociable loner, and she is forced to take a long, hard look at herself for the first time in years. The story follows Tomoko as she attempts to improve her social status as she progresses through high school. And so far, she's been fairly successful despite herself. The art and writing for the book were okay, but not amazing. As I'll be detailing shortly, there were a lot of things I found very relatable in ways I rarely, if ever, see in comics or manga, but many of the characters look similar enough that I kept getting them mixed up, and the way some words were censored was very confusing. While the censorship was generally along the lines of placing a dot instead of a U in the F word, about half the time I wasn't sure why letters were being swapped out, which was confusing. With such long slice of life series, I feel like I should probably be reading the series slower and not trying to rush through it all at once, but then I feel like I forget everything I want to talk about by the time I have enough stuff to actually make a video about it, so I probably rushed a bit too quickly through the series as well. It's really a catch-22, so what you gonna do? How is gender treated in this series so far? That's probably the most interesting aspect because in many, many ways, Tomoko is written like what you might expect a male character to be. As Wikipedia puts it, this series is black/cringe comedy, so it can be a bit painful to read at times, but in my search for the best outcast, uncute, awkward, high school, not male identified story, this gets pretty high marks. Tomoko is rude, crude, and confused. Sexuality is another pretty prominent thing in Watamote for 2 reasons. Not only are there more female-identified characters talking about wieners than I've ever read before, I think there's some interesting stuff to be found in the way that Tomoko sexualizes her friend. Not to say that Tomoko's treatment of Naruse is at all appropriate, but it reminded me quite a bit of the way that my brain worked when I still viewed same-sex, same-gender attraction as the worst thing ever, which was for about the first 10 years post-puberty. And the fact that I was very sexually frustrated and now identify as pansexual meant that I very easily could have sexual thoughts about most of the people around me, which meant I was obsessed with how disgusting I was for not being the perfectly pure Christian girl TM. And I just thought I was just the most depraved pervert ever. TLDR. Trying to suppress your sexuality is really bad. And moving along to the next not recommended in real life, but very relatable plot point is the idea that shows up every once in a while about how Tomoko is never molested because she's ugly. Molestation does not actually relate to attractiveness or even gender presentation. It's about power. That said, growing up, I often felt like a failure at being a woman because I didn't feel like I was sexually harassed or assaulted enough. A weird thought, but I blame the gender binary. Race and class are not really touched on at all in this series as far as I can recall, But so, bye y'all. Keep reading and resist white supremacy.
And as always, I would like to acknowledge that for the most part, all of my videos are filmed and produced on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, an Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation, land covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant.